It was a pitch-black night in early August when the team of Ukrainian commandos struck. Up to 7 boats, packed with dozens of men, stormed the Russian side of the Dnipro River, lit up the night sky with gunfire, and took 16 men, including a senior officer, prisoner. And then they disappeared back into the night from which they came. Or perhaps not. What seemed to be a simple Ukrainian raid has since been touted as a mini breakthrough of Russian lines that could have big implications for Ukraine's counteroffensive. And it is hardly the first. In fact, Kyiv's men have been waging a 10-month clandestine campaign for control over the watery front line that may, at last, be bearing fruit. This is how daring Ukrainian soldiers have brought terror and death to the Russian bank, why British help may be key to winning the campaign, and what that all means for the war. This is the inside story of the battle for the Dnipro River. The most recent raid took place on August 8th near the town of Kozachyi Laheri, which is about halfway between the city of Kherson and the destroyed Nova Kakhovka Dam. Ukrainian commanders carefully planned the attack in an area where elite VDV paratroopers had recently been replaced by Russian conscripts, creating a weak point. Between 40 and 50 Ukrainian soldiers landed, broke through Russia's first line of defense, and advanced up to 800 meters beyond it, according to pro-Kremlin military bloggers. Meanwhile, Ukrainian sources said a Russian command post was attacked and that a whole platoon of soldiers, including a major, had been taken prisoner. So far, so good. But nobody is quite sure what happened next. Some, including a former Ukrainian commander, claim the soldiers jumped back in their boats and withdrew across the river. But other sources, both pro-Ukraine and pro-Russia, say Kyiv has actually rushed reinforcements to the area in an attempt to create a bridgehead. If that is true, then it raises the possibility that this could in fact be the start of a new thrust of Ukraine's counteroffensive. And that would have potentially huge implications for attacks going on elsewhere, including the vitally important but very slow-moving offensive near Orikhiv, 145 miles to the east. To understand why this raid could be so important, we have to look back on the other raids that have been going on since November last year. Not much has been written about them, but ever since Ukraine recaptured the city of Kherson, troops have been probing Russian defenses across the river. One commander, who spoke to the Kyiv Independent, said the raids happen at least once a week, sometimes involving a crack team sent to kill Russians and take prisoners. But other times, regular infantry have been sent to occupy dozens of islands that dot the river and carry out reconnaissance work. Those who took part in such missions described them as hell, stranded for up to a week on a tiny spit of dirt in midwinter, constantly threatened by Russian drones and artillery. But the suffering was worth it, because by spring, the attacks had begun to pay off. Come late April, Ukraine was thought to control much of the river delta and had taken territory near the Russian-occupied town of Oleshki. That sparked fears among Russia's war bloggers that Oleshki would be the staging ground for a large-scale river crossing. Ukrainian troops stationed in the area at the time also felt a big attack was imminent. Though highly risky, the Russians fear such an assault because it would bypass the huge line of trenches and minefields that Ukraine is struggling to get through further to the east. If successful, the attack would directly threaten Crimea and force Russian commanders to divert troops from that defensive line to stop the advance. And that could create a weak point that allows Ukrainian troops to achieve the long-awaited breakthrough they have been hoping for. All of which helps explain why, in early June, Russian troops blew the Novokakhovka Dam. That flooded the river, sweeping away Ukrainian and Russian positions alike, and in the words of one Ukrainian commander, undid months of work in just a few short hours. Ever since, Ukraine has been working to regain a foothold on the Russian side of the river, so far without success. In late June, troops attacked across the badly damaged Antonivsky Bridge near Kherson and established themselves on the other side. Days of heavy fighting followed, but a Russian missile strike on July the 1st is thought to have wiped out much of that force. As one Ukrainian commander put it, "We tried a massive offensive to fortify our positions, but we didn't get enough support from artillery and got." That is why claims of a new breakthrough near Kozarchi Laheri have caught so much attention. If true, then it could mean Ukraine is building up to another large-scale assault. And it certainly seems Kyiv has no intention of letting up, with 900 troops recently completing training in how to conduct boat attacks. British Royal Marines and Army commandos led that training, and the hope is that those reinforcements could tip the battle in Ukraine's favour. If they do, then it could prove vital to the success of the assault in Kyiv, which is thought to be the main thrust of Ukraine's counteroffensive. Nobody expects the battle for the Dnipro to end the war in Ukraine, but it could prove to be the beginning of the end, not just for Russia's invasion, but for Putin's occupation of Crimea, and perhaps even for Putin himself. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this.